Hi there again, Izzy from DigitalGoja.com showrooms. Well, I went on the internet and I looked at what are the most popular questions asked about the Olympus OMD M5 Mark II series camera. This is a mirrorless flagship. They added a lot of features on here: Wi-Fi, 5-axis stabilization, weather sealing. But there's a lot of questions that consumers are asking. I went on Amazon's website, eBay's website, DigitalGoja.com's website. I looked at the most popular customer service issues and questions that customers are asking, whether it be simple settings or how do I do this or will it do that. We're going to take a look at these most popular questions and see how we can get these answered for you. Remember, if this video is going to be helpful, always remember to hit me up with a like button underneath and subscribe to our channel for future sessions like this and tutorials. Plus, any further questions or comments, don't forget to place them underneath. Well, let's see what everybody is asking about this mirrorless wonder. Does my Olympus E-M5 Mark II have a built-in flash? No, it does not. But they give you a hot shoe because guess what? They gave you this really nice FL-M3 little flash. This is actually really a great small flash. Very simple to mount on. Push it on, lock it in place. To release it, you press the unlock button, turn it on, and you even have a bounce feature. So this is a great little flash if you're working in an environment where you do need flash photography. They gave you a really nice option to be able to work with this. And again, you can control all your settings in your menu system, but this is very accurate when it comes to working with flash photography. They thought of everything. They gave you a nice little unit. Plus, of course, you do have the option of working with other units that are on the market, including about 3 or 4 different Olympus ones, all the way up to the FL600 series. But honestly, for close-up work, this guy has a guide number of about 4 meters. It does a really good job for flash photography on the go. And they gave you a really cool little case to carry it with you, so this way it's with you at all times because you can attach it to your favorite strap or camera bag. So again, no flash included, but they gave you an option which is simple and easy to carry. Can I work with Canon lenses on my Olympus OMD E-M5 Mark II? Yes, but you have to use an adapter. I picked one of these up online. This allows you to work with micro four third mount, this connection, to an EF mount lens. So I have one of my favorite macros from Canon. This one happens to be the EFS 60mm. I've had this lens for quite a while. So now I need to mount this on the camera as if this was the lens. You line up your dot to your dot, boom, lock it in place. And now I'm going to place this as if I was mounting it straight onto the camera, and you lock that in place. Now, very important, this does not work on autofocus, of course, because as you saw, there is no electrical contact between the adapter and the camera. But if you set your camera to manual, you can now do manual focus, and notice how it does bring it into focus there fine. Plus, you have to do manual exposure. So you're going to pick your shutter speed here, and your f-stop is always going to be whatever the maximum aperture is on your lens. This one happens to be a 2.8, so it's a constant 2.8. So of course, when you take your image, you got to keep an eye out to see your exposure. So if you notice that it's way overexposed, here's where you have to compensate with your shutter speed. So honestly, I mean, if you need use of some of the lenses that you have in your EOS line, it's a great way to do it. But it's not really the most efficient way to work with this camera. But you do have that capability. Is my electronic viewfinder able to work outdoors in bright sunny situations? Absolutely. I've actually been able to work with the articulating screen in that kind of situation because I did a really good job in giving you a good amount of brightness. You can angle the screen outdoors depending on the lighting situation, but guess what? To me, the best situation is being able to put it up to your eye. Let's see if I can show this on the camera. Yeah, you can see some of it there. Kind of difficult because it's trying to focus through it, but it's nice and bright. So, and regardless of whether it's a bright sunny day or if you're in a situation where you're in a bright environment like a studio environment like I'm shooting here, this viewfinder works rather well. Can I use an external microphone on my Olympus OMD E-M5 Mark II? Well, yes, that's another one of the added benefits. Olympus knows that a lot of us are using mirrorless for video capabilities nowadays, and especially with the 5-axis image stabilization system that it has, that's a really good feature. So that way you have to carry less with you. But we all prefer, especially us videographers, prefer to work with an external microphone. So yes, they give you the standard 3.5 plug, which is right there. And then of course you can put your mic on a hot shoe, and there you go. You are now ready to do some incredible videography with incredible audio, because remember, the audio portion is just as important to most of us. Can I work with some of my old Nikon film lenses on my Olympus OMD E-M5 Mark II? Yes, you can, but again, we have to resort to purchasing some of these adapters that are online. I got a hold of one of these. This one is allowing you to work with the Nikon F-mount lenses, like the older film lenses. There is an advantage to having this kind because now you have some of these beautiful legacy glass lenses able to work on your Micro Four Thirds. So of course, we have to remove the existing lens. And now we have to place the adapter as if this was the lens on the camera. Lock it in place. And now we're going to place our Nikon lens onto the adapter as if we were mounting it onto the camera. Lock it in place. Now with this one, you will be able to set your exposure as far as your aperture on the lens, because since it is the older film design, you have your f-stops actually on the lens. So you're going to set your shutter speed on the camera and your f-stop on the lens. Take the image and look to your exposure. Again, you're not getting real-time metering here, so you're going to have to play with the exposure until you get it correct. And you can view it there. Plus, again, everything is manual, so you have to do manual focus also. It's not really the most efficient way to work with your OMD, but it's a nice feature that allows you to work with some incredible lenses that have been around for quite a while. What is the highest ISO I can use on my Olympus OMD E-M5 Mark II? Well, yeah, they went all out on this. This guy now has, let's take a look here. Let's go into the ISO settings. You can go all the way down to, since I do a lot of landscape shooting, I can go down to low, which allows you to go down to 50 ISO, or I can go all the way up for you nighttime and low light shooting experts, all the way up to 25,600 ISO. So yes, any kind of shooting situation you can handle with the new OMD E-M5 Mark II. Can I use my Lumix lenses on my Olympus OMD E-M5 Mark II? Absolutely. Sometimes I don't want to walk around with this massive 12 to 40. It's one of my favorite lenses, but sometimes it's too big. So guess what? You can work with any of the Micro Four Thirds lenses that are on the market, and Lumix happens to have a really nice little pancake one that I like. It's their 12 to 32 millimeter zoom. Very compact. Look at the size of this. Nice and small. This is great for any kind of street photography or landscaping when you want to work with something nice and compact. And notice how the autofocus works fine. You have no issues. It works just like an original Olympus, but again, it is one of the Micro Four Thirds consortium, so it does work with anything in a Micro Four Thirds mount, including most of your Lumix. Does my Olympus OMD E-M5 Mark II have a night scene mode where I can do handheld photography at night? Yes, because of the advanced image stabilization system, they actually gave you a handheld night mode. And if you notice, it explains that this reduces blur when shooting in low light and illuminated scenes. So in this mode, the camera picks a higher ISO and kicks in the 5-axis image stabilization, so you can do all your handheld shots at night without having to worry about working with a tripod or a monopod. Very ingenious feature. What happens when you work with a lens that has image stabilization, like some of the Lumixes that have optical image stabilization built in? Well, I happen to have one of the favorite of mine. This one is the little tiny Lumix 12 to 32. It's a variable aperture, but it's a really nice small pancake lens. So I like carrying it along when I'm doing any kind of street photography and I don't want to lug around a huge lens. So this guy does image stabilization built in. So I have both the camera set to image stabilization and the lens, and it does a fantastic job. It really maintains a nice steady image regardless of what kind of shooting situation you're in, because you now have the image stabilization on the body and you also have the optical stabilization on the lens. And you can choose to turn off the one on the body, but I prefer having both activated so that I get that much better work, especially if I'm doing some run and gun shooting and street photography. Will I ever use a tripod with the Olympus OMD E-M5 Mark II series due to the stabilization system? Well, honestly, of course you will, especially if you are a landscape photographer and you like crystal clear shots, or if you're doing exclusively long exposures at night, absolutely. But for most situations, if you go into the menu, notice on your C folder, you can go into your image stabilizer settings. And here's where you can activate it, whether you want it disabled, whether you want it to work automatically in all directions. That means it gives you the 5-axis, or you can actually choose whether you want vertical stabilization or whether you want horizontal stabilization only. And you also have the auto one where the camera chooses it for you, detecting the movement of your camera. So they really did a great job in being able to work with a camera now that literally any lens you place on there, whether it's an original Olympus, a Lumix, or even some of the older film lenses with adapters, will give you the stabilization system in the camera built in. So all in all, it handles a lot without having to walk around with a tripod. But of course, there will be situations where a tripod, of course, will be necessary. How do I combat flickering lights, especially when you're working in different environments, as in, for example, Europe or in the US? How do I set that on my Olympus OMD E-M5 Mark II? Well, being a very sophisticated camera and Olympus loving sophisticated menus as they do, you go into your menu setting and go into your D folder. If you scroll all the way down, there you have flicker reduction. Right now I have it set to auto. But if you want to be real specific, you can set it to 50 Hertz power or 60 Hertz power, or off altogether. Honestly, I've had really good results with the auto setting, but if you're a stickler for the settings, absolutely, you can turn it to the 60 Hertz or the 50 Hertz yourself. What is the HDMI output on my Olympus OMD E-M5 Mark II, and can I use an external recorder through HDMI? Well, First answer is, let's go into our menu and go into the D folder, and notice that you have an HDMI folder. Move into that, and there you have your settings. You have 1080p, 720p, and 480p and 576p. So obviously we're all going to set it to 1080p, which is the highest output of this particular model. And then you have HDMI control, so that means that once you plug it into, let's say, your favorite TV, you can use your remote control to zoom, to rewind, to play, fast forward, anything else you want to do. But unfortunately, it does not have the HDMI recorder capability. Does my Olympus OMD E-M5 Mark II have for wireless infrared remote? No, it does not. If you notice, nowhere on there is there a IR sensor on the body, but they did something, honestly, I think much better and much more advanced. Go into your menu and go into your tool settings and scroll down to where it says Wi-Fi settings. You now have a Wi-Fi capability. With this mode, you can actually not only send your files to your PC or tablet or smartphone, but with an app that they have at the App Store for both iOS and Android, you can actually download that app and control your camera. Yes, absolutely, control your camera right through the smartphone or your tablet. So you can do your exposure, set your exposure settings. You can also control your focus. Everything that you wish you could do with just a simple infrared remote, you can now do, and much more with your Wi-Fi settings. Does my Olympus OMD E-M5 Mark II have a selfie mode? I actually lost a bet on this. Believe it or not, yes it does. I didn't think that such a sophisticated camera had that setting, but believe it or not, very simple to find. Well, actually it's on the last folder. Click your menu button and go to the K folder and scroll all the way down till you get to Selfie Assist. There it is. Move into that, activate it. So now your screen is a mirror image of what you're going to do a selfie of. So lo and behold, voila, there it is. There's your selfie mode.